Hey, what is going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of the Walking Dead Telltale TV Adaptation series. This episode is called Starved for Help. So, in terms of the characters that we have as of right now within the series, it includes Lee, Clementine, Kenny, Katja, Duck, Lily, Larry, Carly, Jordan, and a couple of new characters that we're going to introduce in this episode, including Mark, Ben, Travis, and Peter. So these are all the characters within the episode, including characters that will be introduced within future portions of this episode as well. So just wanted to let everyone know what's going on. Those are the characters that are alive right now in the show. So the episode starts off 3 months later. It is now October, and we are in the woods. Lee comes out of nowhere, uses his axe to chop off a walker's head, and this walker was eating a bunny rabbit, just like in the video game, right? And he's with Mark, who is a 28-year-old mechanic, and he comes up behind Lee and says that it's just another meal wasted, and he's talking about the rabbit. The two talk about the fact that they basically have no food at the motor inn, and that the group's been in an uproar about it. He says they have to get lucky out here, or else it'll be another day of splitting cheese and crackers with the whole group, and they can't do that again. They also talk about Larry just being a complete asshole lately, and Lily and Kenny always fighting about leadership and group decisions. Lee says they were supposed to leave that motor inn like 3 days after they got there, but the roads never got safer and their food problem only got worse. They hear a scream coming from the other side of the woods. Lee and Mark run towards it and find a man named Peter trapped in a bear trap. Peter is a band teacher, and his two students, Ben and Travis, stand there trying to help him. They beg Lee and Mark to help their teacher. Kenny comes running to where they are as well, because Kenny was also hunting in the woods with Lee and Mark, but he was split up. Kenny comes running to help them out. Walkers approach the area. Kenny uses his Mosin Nagant sniper rifle to hold some of the walkers back, and then he decides to just start going up and slicing them with his really long and sharp bayonet that's on top of the Mosin Nagant. Lee and Mark try everything, but there's no release latch on the bear trap. Lee then takes out his axe and uses it to try to break the chain, but that doesn't work either. More walkers come from the woods and get even closer as Mark helps using his machete against the walkers. Lee decides that he has to just chop off his leg or he's gonna die. He begs Lee to just try for something else because he doesn't want his leg to get chopped off, but Lee says there's no other way or else he'll die. Kenny tells Lee to hurry up. Travis and Ben give Lee the okay to do it. Lee says he's sorry, gets up and cuts down Peter's leg as fast as possible as he passes out. He slices at least 4 or 5 times before the leg completely comes off. Travis picks up Peter over his shoulder as they run out of the woods, following Kenny, Lee, and Mark back to the motor inn. And boom, there's the opening sequence. Back at the motor inn, Lily stands watch on top of the RV. Larry and Jordan work on reinforcing the fence. Clem kicks a soccer ball against the wall. Duck colors pictures on the floor. And Katja does the laundry with clothes hangers and such. All of a sudden, Lee and company come running through the woods near the motel with the students and their now injured teacher. Katja quickly runs over to move the garbage dumpster type fence that they created out of the way so they can get them in. Kenny asks Katja if he can help him, and she says she can, but it's a little bit severe compared to what she's used to doing and dealing with, because she was a veterinarian, but she didn't deal with stuff like this. They put Pete on the back of a truck and hang him off the edge. Katja says she doesn't know, but she can try. Clem goes up to ask Lee if he's okay, and he says that everything is fine. Lily comes over yelling at Lee and Kenny for letting in more people because they don't have much food, probably a week's worth left. Mark argues, saying that they are people and don't deserve to be left out there to die. Lily says he was only let into the group because he had enough food for all of them, but now that food is gone, and she does that funny quote where she's like, I don't think you guys are holding any groceries, are you? And Ben and Travis kind of stand there like, I don't think so. Lee says that no one says they have to feed these people, but they deserve a fighting chance and some help from Katja for their teacher. They don't have to feed them. They can send them on their asses if they really that's what they have to do, but they deserve something. Ben and Travis don't really speak. They kind of just stand there. Lily goes on to say that they are way too low on food at the moment, and she's sick of everyone treating her like shit because she's the one who chooses who gets to eat and who doesn't every single day. She has the hardest job here. She gives that day's food rations to Lee and tells him to decide today so he can truly see how damn hard it is. This includes cheese and crackers, like a small thing of that, jerky, and 2 granola bars. She says it's the food for the whole entire day. Everyone in the group split off and do their own thing. Lee goes to talk to Kenny as he works on the RV. Kenny tells Lee once he gets this RV running, him and his family are headed out and he is welcome to come. Lee tries to talk him into waiting a bit since the roads probably aren't cleared yet. Kenny says they've been planning on going to Savannah ever since the start and that the cities have got to have cleared out by now, and it's worth the risk to check it out at least to find more food or something better so they can get on that boat. And plus it'll give them closure to Clem's parents and to whether or not they're even alive or still out there. Lee offers Kenny half a granola bar, but he refuses and says he wants the kids and Katja to eat before he has anything. Ben and Travis talk in private about their trust for this group as they watch Katja try to help Peter. Ben tells Travis as long as they are away from those bandits, he's happy since they are safer in numbers. Lee goes over to Clem and gives her crackers and cheese. She then tells Lee that she lost her hat. Lee asks how that is possible, and she says she just woke up one day and it wasn't there anymore. Lee says he will keep an eye out for it. Clem also asks when they're going to go to look for her parents in Savannah, and Lee says it's still not safe out there. Clem says okay with a sad look on her face. Lee reassures her that everything will be okay. Lee goes over to Carly and offers her half a granola bar. She accepts it and tells Lee that he should have the other half, considering he probably hasn't eaten in a while. Lee says he's okay and that some of these people need it more. Lee gives Duck the piece of jerky. He offers Katja the granola bar, but she says she's too busy with Peter. She says this is the worst she's ever had to deal with him from a medical perspective. Lee goes over to Mark and offers him the half of the granola bar. He accepts it. Mark was in the middle of helping Larry and Jordan work on the wall. Lee gives the other granola bar to Larry and Jordan to split. Larry grabs the whole bar as Jordan fights back in anger. He's yelling at Larry for taking the whole damn thing. Lee tells Larry to give him the other half or he'll kick his goddamn ass. Larry shoves the whole granola bar in his mouth as Jordan and Lee just look at him with disgust. Lee gets up into Larry's face and tells him if he keeps acting like this, he'll knock him on his damn ass. Larry tells him to back off or he'll tell the others. Quietly, so no one else really hears this, though. Lee backs off. Lily and Kenny come running over to see what's happening, and they all get into an argument as Katja calls over Lee and Kenny. She tells him that Peter didn't make it because he just lost too much blood. Travis and Ben come over all upset. Peter turns into a walker and grabs Katja suddenly. Lee helps her out, but the walker just grabs onto Lee instead. He gets Katja out of the way, though. Mark comes over with the axe, swings it, but misses because the walker jumped out of the way right before he swung, and it gets stuck into the truck. Carly comes over quickly and shoots Peter right in the head. Kenny turns over and starts yelling at the students and asking why the hell wouldn't they tell him that he was bitten. Ben said he wasn't and questions if they even know. They all kind of get confused, but Ben says that you turn no matter how you die. Everyone comes to the sudden realization that the sickness is airborne and that they are all infected with it. Carly spots 2 men walking by the motor inn. She aims her gun at them and tells them to stand still. The 2 men are Andy and Danny St. John. They raise up their hands and say they were just out on a supply run and heard the gunshot from the woods, and so they came running to see what was up. Danny asks if they have any gas. Kenny asks why, and Danny says they have an electric fence and generators that run on gasoline to power it. He says if they have gasoline, they can make a trade. They'll give them food and other supplies back at their ranch, and they'll take some of the gas. Lee looks over to their large amounts of gasoline containers. Lily tells Lee that a few of them should just go to check it out first and make sure it's safe. Make the trade if you have to, too. Andy says they can all come in for a meal if they'd like as well. Lily adds on for them to make sure it's safe, too, and just do that first. Lee says to Clem he'll be right back and that they're just going to check out where these people are held up. Clem asks if they'll finally get a full meal, and Lee says he hopes so. Clem tells him to make sure he holds on to the walkie-talkie just in case. Lee, Carly, Jordan, and Mark head over with them. As they walk down a path in the woods, Andy and Danny tell them all about their farm. It's a dairy farm, not a ranch, my bad. He says they raise cattle and have a major garden for vegetables. Jordan and Mark keep the conversation going with them as Carly and Lee talk. She asks Lee if he thought of telling any people about his past. Lee says firmly that he isn't comfortable with that. He wants to let his past die. Back at the motor inn, Katja and Kenny help Ben and Travis bring Peter outside the walls of the motor inn to bury him. Lily and Larry have a conversation. Lily tells him to just be less of a problem. Larry says he only acts the way he does because he wants her to be safe, and he wants to be around to make sure she's safe. And Lily reassures him not to worry so much. Clem and Duck continue drawing as Duck asks her what she thinks the others went. And Clem says somewhere to find more food. Duck says he wishes they had ice cream. Clem agrees. Duck asks about her parents and if she has any. Clem says she's definitely told him this before, but they're probably out looking for her somewhere. Back on the walk to the dairy farm, the group suddenly come to a stop when they see two bandits talking to each other in the woods, arguing. They all hide behind bushes. Danny tells them to stay quiet and wait for them to pass. The one bandit, whose name is Gary, shoots the bandit in the stomach with his rifle multiple times and watches him try to crawl away. Carly asks if they should do something. Andy tells her to stay the hell down. Gary continues to shoot the bandit in the stomach with his rifle until the bandit is just dead. Gary walks away after spitting on the dead body. The group continue on as Jordan questions who the hell that person was, and Danny says they'll explain that when they reach the dairy farm. Lee says he doesn't feel comfortable going there until they know what the hell that was back there. And he says there's bandits around the area. They have a deal with them, so they're not going to attack them or anything, but they give them tons of food in return, and they take out any threats in the area. It's a simple deal that they follow, but they tend to be unhinged. And Danny says they didn't want to interfere with any of their business arrangements, so if they ever come across them, just avoid them. Mark questions the safety of this place, but Lee says they'll check it out. Andy lets them know that all they want is a trade anyways. They don't have to stay here. They want the gas, and they'll get tons of food and a nice meal in return. Mark and Jordan have been holding the gas throughout the walk. They reach the dairy farm, and the group is quite amazed at how beautiful the farm looks. The mother of the two brothers come outside. Her name is Brenda. The brothers' two cousins, Chris and Jay, come outside as well. They'll introduce and greet each other. Andy tells Brenda about their trade deal. Brenda offers to make them a dinner on top of the food they'll give them, and Andy says they already told him about that. Brenda says they can go back and get their people for a big meal tonight, and they can take a big box full of food and supplies back to go back at their home. Lee and Mark decide to stay, and Danny tells them to check around the fences around the outskirts to make sure there aren't any walkers. They always need to do this every day to make sure. Of course, electric fence sometimes gets some walkers trapped into it. Lee and Mark agree as they want to make sure this place seems secure anyways. Danny shows them how the electric fence works as they refuel it with the gasoline. Carly and Jordan, on their way back, talk about whether or not they should trust these people. Lee and Mark start their walk around the fences. They remove a few walkers off the fence as they talk about how this place could be dangerous because of those bandits. The electric fence suddenly turns on out of nowhere as the two get confused as why the hell they would turn it on if they knew they were out here and, up and close to the fence. Mark is suddenly struck by an arrow into the shoulder from the woods. He falls to the ground in pain as Lee gets him up behind cover behind a tractor. Arrows start flying towards them, hitting the tractor and also flying past. The bandits are starting to yell at them, that's who was shooting at them, for messing up with their deal. The episode ends with Lee standing there looking worried as hell as a bunch of bandits come from the woods with arrows, crossbows, and everything else, and they are ready to fight. And Lee and Mark are stuck behind this tractor. Boom, episode ends. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was very, very, very similar to the game, but I feel like this episode had to be really similar to the game in terms of what was happening story-wise. I felt like the beginning of this episode in the Telltale game was just really important, and I felt like it needed to be so similar. It just did. The best possible story I can tell, it had to be similar. Now, expect some pretty different things compared to what happened in the game within the next few episodes, definitely, so it's not going to be the same, trust me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.